Hello there. Do you think it is possible to make a statement sound like a question? Yes, it is. Just add a question tag. That's it. Today we are going to learn about these question tags and see how a statement can be changed into a question and get the emphasis on the answer. Okay, let's start knowing something more about these question tags. A question tag or a tag question is basically an addition to the statement at the end of it. The main purpose is to get confirmation about the reply. Just have a look at these statements. She is pretty. It's a statement. Yes? Now, if I want to ask somebody's opinion on it or confirmation on it, I have to make changes in the statement. And what changes can I make here? I can add a small question tag at the end of this. A question tag is always made up of an auxiliary verb and a pronoun. And this pronoun will always be related to the noun that I am using in the main statement. Let's start changing this. She is pretty. Now, first thing that you have to know is whenever you are adding a question tag, you have to remove this full stop at the end of the statement and put a comma here. Next, you have to add the same auxiliary verb that is used here. Now, what are auxiliary verbs? Auxiliary verbs are the different forms of the verb have and be or do. Now, look here. She is pretty. Now, what I am going to do here is first add an auxiliary verb here. The auxiliary verb in the main sentence is, which will be added here first. And the next thing that I am going to make is that this changed into a pronoun here. So these two parts will make my question tag, and at the end of the question tag I will always add a question mark. Now, one point that you have to always remember here is that positive sentences will always take a negative question tag, whereas a negative statement like this will always take a positive one. Let's see how to do it, all these one by one. She is pretty means is will become isn't. I'll use the contracted form always in a question tag. Contracted form in the sense I will not use is not. I will never use is not in a question tag. Instead, I will use isn't. So let's change this. She is pretty, isn't? And then I have to put a pronoun that will match with this. So it will become isn't she. Let's take the next example. You are going to the market. What do we have to change here? Remove the full stop, put a comma here. Then take the auxiliary verb first. The auxiliary verb here is are. So I am going to take this are first here. But because it is positive here, my tag will become negative. So I will write aren't, the contracted form. And then next is I have to take the pronoun. My pronoun is already you here. So and write down you and put a question mark. Let's take the third one now. He hasn't yet shifted to Delhi. Now this is a negative statement, and I told you negative statements will always have a positive tag, which means in the question tag we will not have not. Look here. Okay, hasn't. Hasn't is the auxiliary verb here. So I'm going to take the auxiliary verb first, change the full stop into a comma, and then hasn't. Hasn't is a negative. The positive of this will be has. Has. And the pronoun is he. I don't have to change he into anything. So I will take the he as it is and make it like this. Has he, and end it with a question mark. Now there is something called as intonation, which plays major role when we are talking about tag questions. Intonation is the rise and fall in your voice or pitch. Now, when the pitch rises, when you're asking a question tag and your pitch rises, it means that you are trying to confirm the answer. You don't know the answer, but you are trying to get the answer. But if your pitch falls down, that is your intonation falls down, then it means that you know the answer, but you are just confirming it again. Let's look at these examples and I'll tell you how it rises and it falls and what it means when it does it. Look at the first one. You don't know how to swim, do you? Right? Now I'm going to speak this again with rising intonation. Listen to me carefully. You don't know how to swim, do you? You don't know how to swim, do you? So now what am I doing here? I am raising my voice here. Then it means that I am not sure about the answer. I am trying to get the answer from the listener. Look at the next sentence. You know how to swim, don't you? Now here my intonation fell. So when the intonation falls down, then it means that I know the answer, but I'm just trying to confirm it from you. That's how intonation works with question tags. Now what happens when you do not have an auxiliary verb in the statement? Then what do you do? Then you have to take appropriate forms of the auxiliary verb do and use it as per the tense of the statement. Suppose the statement is in past tense, you will use the form did. Otherwise, if it's in the present tense, you will use the form do or does. Look at these examples here. I kept my promise. Just look at the tense here. Kept, the word kept tells us that it is in the past tense. I have used here didn't. Look at the second example. You don't love me, do you? Now this is in simple present tense here. So this is going to have the auxiliary verb do. Next, she likes to eat fast food. Since she is a singular subject, we are going to add does or does not here. And because the sentence here is a positive one, I am going to add a negative question tag. There are certain words called as modals. What are modals? Modals are words like can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, have to, dare, etc. So these words are called as modals. Now what do you do if you have a modal in the statement? Simple. The question tag will take the same modal. Either change it into a positive tag or change it into a negative tag. Look at these examples here. They couldn't run fast. Now couldn't is a modal which is in the negative form. So I'm just going to use the same modal here and change it into a positive form. So couldn't will become could. Look at the next one. She won't come to the concert. Won't becomes will. The third one. We must always obey the traffic rules. Now must is positive, so I have to change it into negative and make the question tag like mustn't. Next, you should learn from your mistakes. So should will become shouldn't. Now certain verbs or expressions fall under a different category. They fall under the category of exceptions. Let's look at the exceptions one by one. Now if the statement has I am, what do you think the question tag should be? Aren't I or amn't I? What do you think? Well, there is nothing like amn't I. There is no word like amn't I. So whenever you have I am in the statement, you will always have the question tag as aren't I. If your statement is imperative, now what are imperative statements? Imperative statements are like requests, commands, instructions, and so on. So if you have an imperative statement as the main statement, like this, stop crying, then the tag will be like this, will always have the word will. Now, if the statement is a positive imperative, then you may have a tag like either positive or negative, like will or won't. But if your imperative statement is a negative one, like here, don't bother the dog. So if it's a negative statement, then you will always have a positive tag. Now sometimes we have statements starting with let's. What do you do in such case? Very easy. You just don't have to think. Let's will always have the combination shall we. So whenever you have let's, let can also be written as let us. So this us can become we here, and let's will always be shall we. Now if the sentence starts with the word there, then your question tag will always have the word there, and your auxiliary verb will depend on the tense of the sentence. That is, whatever auxiliary verb is used in the main sentence, the same will be used here, and the word there will again be duplicated. Let's look at these examples. There is no hope of any survivor. Is there. Now if you see that this entire thing is duplicated here, it's just that the position of the words is changed. Next, there are no tolls on this highway. Are there? Now look here, there are will become are there. There was a problem with the car, wasn't there? Now because here it's a positive statement, the tag will become negative. So there was will become wasn't there. In the first two sentences, if you see that there is the word no, which already tells us that the statement is in negative terms. Next, there were spiders in the room. There were. So the tag will become weren't. Now if the statements start with demonstratives like this or that, then the question tag will have the word it. Let's look at these examples. This is hilarious, isn't it? Because this statement has got this, I am going to replace it with it in the tag. Next one, that wasn't a very good shot. So that will become it in the question tag. That was John. Now here we are talking about a person, but if it is starting with demonstrative, we will always have it. Therefore, that will turn into it. And again, not to forget the rule that the positive statement will have a negative tag and negative will have a positive tag. Now, last of all the exceptions is this. When a statement uses indefinite pronoun. Now, what are indefinite pronouns? These are words like nobody, none, someone, somebody, anyone, anybody, everyone, everybody. So when you have these words, they are called as indefinite pronoun. And why indefinite? Because they can refer to anyone, anybody, not any specific person. So when you have indefinite pronouns in the sentence, the tag will be absolutely different. Look at the tag here. The tag will always have the words have and they. Or if it's a positive indefinite pronoun like these, then it will always have haven't they. Look here. These are the tags which are used with indefinite pronouns. To check your progress, I have given you a small exercise. But today, I'm going to leave you with this exercise for at least half a minute. You have to think about the answers first and then I'll come to help you. So here it is. Okay, the time's up. Let's do it together now. Her mother is an Italian. What would you write here as question tag? Her mother. Her mother, mother is a singular. So what are we going to write here? Isn't she? And a question mark, not to forget. Let's finish the matter today itself. What will be the question tag there? Shall we? There is nobody there. Now this sentence starts with there. It will be next. The Sharmas didn't visit us last Sunday. It's a normal, simple past statement. And you have this verb didn't. So I'm going to write here. Did they? These are your answers. You can check them with your own and find out how you have progressed. That's all in the question tags. In my next video, we will solve a worksheet from your grammar book. Stay tuned, stay safe, and take good care of yourself. Thank you.